When done right, a saltwater aquarium is the most beautiful thing you can keep in your own home. But some people take that to the next level, so today I'll show you the top 5 best reef tanks on the internet, and you're going to want to stick around to the end because number 1 is absolutely unreal. I'm going to kick off with the 1200 gallon display tank at Worldwide Corals in Florida. This tank was inspired by public aquariums that often have large low-lying tanks that can be seen from top down as well as side on. It's a mixed reef with a real variety of corals, from wavy bright LPS corals to soft corals to branching SPS corals, and it even has mangrove plants at the back like a true lagoon. The aquascape was designed to look like a hand with 5 fingers branching out, and even though the rockwork was originally very well spaced out, in the 4 years this tank has been up and running, the corals have grown so much that they are now stinging each other in a fight for territory. So Worldwide Corals are planning a rescape in the coming months. Worldwide Corals say that the glass at the front was designed to be tall so as to avoid the need for unsightly bracing to support the extra water weight. But given this is in a shop, I suspect that was also partly to keep people's hands out of the tank. For number 4, we're going to one of the most spectacular home aquariums in the UK, set in an equally spectacular home. Based in London's prestigious Hyde Park, this is David Saxby's world famous aquarium. It holds 3,700 gallons of saltwater and was established 10 years ago in 2013. It's home to over 300 fishes, including some exceptionally rare and unique specimens that you won't see anywhere else. This tank has been featured in countless magazines and videos and was an absolute shoo-in for the list of best reef tanks on the internet. The fish and corals speak for themselves, and the stats on this tank are simply staggering. It contains over a ton of live ocean rock and has its own dedicated filtration room that is larger than the room most of us keep our own tanks in. The tanks pumps move enough water to fill a bathtub in just 5 seconds, and believe it or not, David does regular water changes on this tank, and I shudder to think what his electricity bill looks like. At the polar opposite end of the scale is a tank reef builders coined Mike's Killer Nano Tank. This is a mere 30 gallon LPS aquarium run by Mike from Elite Reef in Denver, Colorado. Because of the small water volume, nano tanks like this are in many ways much harder to run than bigger tanks because it is a lot more difficult to maintain stable parameters in a small body of water. But Mike compensates for that by keeping things simple. He does 20% water changes once a week and just doses calc water to replace the elements the corals use up to make their stony skeletons. And I love that such a simple, small setup can support such healthy corals. The corals are almost exclusively LPS or long polyp stony corals, and it's rare to see such puffy, healthy looking LPS corals in such a small body of water. Next up, we have a 120 gallon aquarium that is my personal favourite reef tank on the internet. It belongs to Abe Tirona, who runs an online coral store and YouTube channel called Coral Euphoria. And what makes this my favourite is the absolutely stunning collection of aquapora corals. These are the most difficult corals to keep in the hobby, and most of us mere mortals are happy to just keep them healthy and showing a few nice colours. But Abe has taken that to the next level, and his corals show the best health and coloration I've ever seen. The tank runs simple filtration and there's no magic to its success. Just good filtration that keeps the nutrient levels low, an absolute boatload of water movement to take waste away from the corals and bring them the elements, nutrition and oxygen they need, and of course a full covering of strong light. Oh, and not to forget the skill, time and dedication of a talented reefer. Before I get to the number 1 tank, I do want to list a few honourable mentions. There's the immaculate island reef tank of Mrs. Emotions that is one of the cleanest tanks you'll ever see, with some of the most crystal clear water you'll ever see. Then there's YouTuber and coral vendor Reef Bum's 225 gallon Peninsula tank that makes this list simply by virtue of it being 2 years old and yet having fully grown out corals that you would otherwise guess are 5 or 10 years old. And finally, there's Steve Weist's natural masterpiece. This is a 1,000 gallon tank that has to be one of the most natural looking aquariums in the world. Steve is a master aquascaper, and he created the natural look with gullies, angles, grown out corals and an insane ability to hide equipment and cables. But the award for the best tank on the internet goes to Andrew Sandler's 17,000 gallon home reef aquarium. Based in New York, this tank was set up in November 2019 after 6 years of planning and building. It measures 16 feet by 16 feet by 9 feet and is home to thousands of corals, fish and invertebrates. Andrew lost count of the fish at around the 500 mark, and that number includes many rare and even unique species that cost well over $20,000 each. But that price pales into insignificance compared to the running costs of around $30,000 to $40,000 per month, $10,000 of which goes on electricity alone. But this is not just some vanity project, and Andrew is a 30-year veteran of the hobby, and this tank is the culmination of his lifelong passion. The filtration room is underground and more closely resembles a nuclear reactor than it does a fish tank room, and it will come as no surprise that it takes a full team of staff to look after it. Now I'll leave links to all of these tanks in the description below so you can go and check them out in greater detail, and if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe for next time, and until then, happy reefing.